Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Msgr Walter Nolan. We're here on location at the Visitation Home in Yardville, New Jersey. Visitation Home is a nonprofit, faith-based initiative. It's a shared living community. It's a place where developmentally disabled adults and their assistants live together as a beautiful, beautiful family, complemented by the support of neighborhood volunteers. My guest today is its founder and executive director, Denise Reil. I say that as like I've never met her before. I've known Denise for years, and another beautiful person that God has blessed in so many ways. Denise founded this visitation home in 2003 to address the needs of providing residential facilities to adults with developmental disabilities. Having a son with severe autism, she was uniquely qualified to understand the issues and was motivated to find a unique, beautiful solution. Her passion for the mission was motivated to give commitment to ensuring the highest quality of life for the residents at Visitation Home is absolutely unmatched. She has built a team of qualified staff and volunteers who are dedicated to providing the highest level of care and services to the residents and students of the Visitation Home program. Denise, I can't tell you what a blessing it is to be with you today.
Thank you.
I've seen your smile when you were a little girl,
Yes.
and look at you now with the beautiful things you do. And why don't we go back and tell me your story? I always like to start with, tell me your story.
Okay. Well, I have a son, Scott, who was born in May of 1989, and he was a healthy, happy little boy, developing along his milestones on time. And when he was like 15 months, he received his natural course of vaccinations, and for some reason he had a very terrible reaction and started to have seizures afterward, and his eyes changed, from being engaged to kind of dim and looking away and somewhat disinterested in his surroundings. And so we knew something was wrong, but nobody could put their finger on what it was. And I said, it was ever since he had that shot. And they said, no, couldn't be that. So we went on, and he wouldn't sleep through the night anymore. So he kept awakening through the night. So it took a couple months before I actually caught a seizure that he was having. I didn't, because they were so short, and he would wake up at night, and by the time I got to his room, it was over. But I didn't understand why he kept waking up so much. So anyway, then I took him to the doctor right away. I was so upset, and they sent us to Children's Hospital, Philadelphia, and I kept saying, it was right after that vaccine, and they said, no, it can't be that. And now listen, I didn't even know that it was controversial. I was just worried about my son's brain, honestly, and what was going on with him. But it's true, it's what happened to him. And the doctor said that, no, it was a degenerative brain disease and that he would die by the time he was 4. So, oh my gosh, this is like he was about 20 months at the time when all this occurred. And he told me that he would help me find an institution when the time came. And I was just, so devastated. I couldn't believe his words. I mean, my baby's talking and playing, and I couldn't believe that was going to happen to him. So, as a family, we turned to prayer, and every night we prayed the family rosary. We prayed hoping that God would hear our prayers for Scotty and that he would be healed of his seizures, because that was the hardest thing to deal with. So when he was 3, he was due for his boosters, his vaccines. And I begged the doctors, I begged the school district, please, my other children have all their vaccines. And he was on that, schedule too, but for some reason he reacted terribly. So they said, no, I guarantee you nothing's going to happen. They just gave him the polio part, and then he was gone. I mean, he just, 2 days late, by the second morning, he had 10 seizures in 3 hours, huge seizures. And when I called the pediatrician...
Right after the shot.
Right after it. I didn't know anything about the controversy. I put my children, all my kids had their vaccines. I'm not against vaccines. I'm just against the fact that I had to give it to him knowing that he was already showing signs of, it was affecting his brain. So the doctor said it had nothing to do with that. I had 30 days to find a new pediatrician. And he sent a certified letter, said, go somewhere else. So anyway, that's okay. That he didn't understand. And so we continued to pray and continued to pray. And by the time he was 3.5, he lost all his speech. And the last thing he said to me, he came to the foot of my bed one morning and he said, "Scott, a good boy." And I said, "Yes, Scott is a good boy." And he's never spoken again. But
Wow.
but his seizures were, a woman from Princeton told me to take Scott to see the Pilgrim Virgin of Fatima at the Holy Cross Church, because I guess she was traveling around our diocese. And I was, I said, okay, well, what is it? And, I wasn't sure. And so we went and we prayed. And the next day, he had the worst seizure I ever witnessed. It was terrible. It was so long, and he turned blue, and his arms came out, and he vomited, and it was over. He never had another seizure. It was done. And so he's been on no anticonvulsants, no medical intervention whatsoever. The seizure stopped after 1.5 years, every single day and every single night. We used to have to put a harness around him so he could play, because he would have these drop attacks where he'd hit the floor instantly and suddenly.
So you had to be careful of other damages that
Constant.
could happen.
So anyway, we went along. He was very, very seriously affected by these. I mean, he couldn't speak. He couldn't eat. He lost 6 pounds in 3 months as a 3-year-old. It was, I was juicing. I was, getting him off of all foods. I went to a doctor that said put him on all organic foods, and gradually he started to recover. And so now he's 26. Well, he'll be 26 next month, and he's 200 pounds. He's strong, and he still doesn't speak, but he's a huge blessing to us. And
Well, but I will speak for him.
Thank you.
Scott's a good boy.
Thank you, and he is.
So you saw firsthand. I'm saying that with what the needs of people with
Yeah.
developmental needs are.
Well, what happened was that when he was 10, when Scott turned 10, I got a call from the state, and I had never been contacted before by the Division of Developmental Disabilities, and I guess this caseworker just got Scott on his caseload, and he called me up and he said, I'd like to meet with you and discuss Scott. I said, okay. So he came to my office and we spoke for a while, and he said, what do you intend to do with Scott when he's an adult? And I said, well, he'll stay with me. I intend to care for him. And he said, yeah, but what happens if you get sick, or what happens if you die? I said, yeah, that's a worry, for sure. So I asked him, I said, all right, well, give me a scenario. I die, or say I get, terminally ill, and Scott needs a placement. I said, where would he go? And he said, well, anywhere in the state. Anywhere that there's an opening, he would be considered an emergency case, and we'd have to place him anywhere from the farthest northern tip of New Jersey to the farthest southern tip of New Jersey, anywhere in between, wherever there was an opening. And I thought, oh my gosh, I said, he would die. He would die because, first of all, autistic people, they don't like change. They like things routine. They need to know that they're safe in their surroundings. I mean, Scotty even knows ShopRite. He knows when he gets there, he gets the cart. He pushes the cart. I drag him along, and then I feel it get light, and he's off getting Cheez-Its. Okay, comes back. He knows where the cheese. So he knows, and it gives him peace, because he knows what's coming next. So for him to go into a totally strange environment, strange roads, strange people, it would kill him. And I said, no. I said, I could never do that. I said, how can I start my own home? And he looked at me and he said, well, why don't you write a letter to the state and tell them that you'd like to start your own home? And I said, listen, I work here, this is years ago when I worked at St. Vincent de Paul. I said, I see the generosity of people. I see the goodness of people. And when there's somebody in need, the Catholic Church is there. It blew my mind. It was such an awakening for me to see that firsthand. And I said, so it would never cost us what it costs the state to run a home. No way. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for one little home. Well, this is like a typical family. It doesn't cost typical families hundreds of thousands of dollars to run their home. So he said, well, write the letter. So I wrote the letter. I got a letter back, and they said, it's impossible for you to do this without us. And when I read that word, impossible, I said, I already knew that nothing was impossible with God. My son's seizures were healed. There's bigger things that made me believe and trust that God was in charge of this. And so somehow I'm not even qualified to do this. I'm not even qualified to start these businesses. I wanted to start a home. It was coming from my heart. I saw how beautiful it was to live with a child like Scott, to see what he did for all of us in opening our hearts and helping us to love, that I knew that we could do that in a home on our own for other people, to help other people.
You know, when you're telling your story, I'm living part of my story in a way, or my family. My beautiful sister had a couple of situations like you're talking about. And just to think back of how, you know, moms, dads, etc., have to make a decision even in the future about what they think. You know, because when we're younger, I don't care what we are. It's like, you know,
That's
someone
right.
says, well, what happened if you go to God?
That's not going to happen.
You know, no, not me, you know.
You're right.
But anyway, it's a hard decision. But to see the hand of God in the story that you're telling, and how so many instances of the miracle that keeps, you know, it just tells us that. Shows us that the dignity of every human person is a child of God, and you react to that. I mean, you bring that out of yourself and certainly Scott, but others, you know. Yeah. Tell me, you know, now you felt the need to start your own home. Huh? You had some people writing letters and telling you you can't do this.
Right.
How difficult was it? How long did it take? What hurdles did you have to face? I mean, I'm thinking the state, somebody had to come along and say, oh, wait a minute.
No, we had a lot of that. We had a lot of people, you know, that were very concerned. And, but, you know, I just continued to pray, and amazed how God sent every person we needed when we needed them. I needed an accountant. I needed a lawyer. I needed, you know, people that knew construction. And they were all there, and they all offered their services free of charge. And then I ended up in meetings at banks, and I just called, oh, Denise, I want you to meet us at this. Okay, and I walk in, a bunch of people I don't know, and they wanted to hear what was my vision. And so I expressed it, and people got us grants. They got me in the right places, and I got a $400,000 grant to purchase this home. And it's meant for low-income housing. So our people will always be low income. They don't even have the, you know, the intellectual ability to go out and get a job that they could support themselves, you know, or to live in a loving, beautiful environment that we can give them. So we got the grant. We opened this first home in 2003. But we actually started, I incorporated in 2000, and I went and visited homes in Washington, D.C., Erie, Pennsylvania. There were a cluster of homes there. There was a priest out there actually that started that whole community. He was wonderful. He gave me a lot of insight. He gave me a lot of things to, you know, to watch out for, some pitfalls, and which I really appreciated. And he gave me also great hope for how beautiful this could be.
How many children do you have here now, or young adults?
Well, you have to be over 21. Okay. So it's people that age out of school. And we have 14 currently. This house has one opening still because someone had to leave because of some severe situation, and their family just felt that they needed to put them in a specialized care, which was the right thing, for the sake of everyone, and for the peace of the people that live here as well. Sure. So this house that we're in here is our first house. We call it VH1, Visitation Home 1, not MTV and VH1, just VH1. And then we purchased in 2006 the house 2 doors away from us, which was another miracle. There was a priest here from New York, and he offered Mass for our anniversary and of our opening. And as we were leaving, I said, oh, Father, I said, pray for us. I said, we're bidding on that house 2 doors away. And he said, well, what's wrong with the house next door? Who owns it? And I said, well, Father, it's not for sale, and I don't know who owns it because it was a rental. And he said, he stood there, and it was amazing to me. He stood there and he said, you're going to own the house next door. It was Father Glenn. And I said, okay. And he said goodbye. He got in his car and he left. That night, this big storm blows through. It breaks down this huge limb off of a tree that breaks down the fence between this house and the house next door. The owner from Pennsylvania came over and he said, listen, I want to sell this house if you guys are interested. Oh, so we got that house. So it was just amazing. And then this house should have 5. We have one opening, like I said. The house next door has 4 men. And then the third home that we opened, we just opened that a year and a half ago. This August, it'll be 2 years. So that's where all of our girls are. These are both men's homes, and then our girls are in the new home.
So we The guys have a home and the girls
Yeah,
have
that's
a
right.
home.
Well, we used to mix them, but
No,
we thought it was good to
terrific.
have them
How long can they stay?
for all their life.
This is their
Lifelong home.
This is their home.
It's their home, and we do let them know this is your home,
Yeah.
so they can help clean it too.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
and
No,
it makes
that's
them feel
important,
better
though.
about
That's-
themselves.
that's
It's
important.
very important.
I mean,
You know?
that's the dignity, to give them dignity.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So funding, I mean, this doesn't all just happen. I mean, you said some things about your funding,
Yeah.
but how does it, how do you
It's-
continue to get that funding?
It's all just private donations. Each person who lives here does have their small SSI check that they get each month, and so they're not allowed to save that. They would
Right,
lose their,
right.
so they use a percentage of that, which is like 75% of their small amount goes to their rent and their program here, and then they have the 25% left over, which is their spending money to go out to dinner or to go to a store to buy something or
Buy
whatever.
their Cheez-Its.
Exactly, or buy their Cheez-Its. And then we do fundraisers. We have a big golf outing in July. We just had our gala last Friday, which was incredible. It was so joyful, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful evening. It raises a lot of money for us. And then we have a few grants, just some small grants through the year. And the rest of it is, we just send a newsletter out every now and then, and people generously respond. And so it's really just
So this is the first house, and you have 3 houses, and they just kept spreading, and they have more needs.
Oh, there's lots more. There's so many people that call us. We have calls every day. People who say, do you have any openings? Or, in fact, today I just had a message from a woman in Ocean County who's elderly, and she said, "What do we do? Do you have any openings? Could I meet with you?" And like I said, we have the one right now, so we'll see. But she's not ready at the moment. And if you don't take these openings at the moment, you lose them because they fill.
Denise, as I mentioned a little bit ago, my own family, and as time went on, of course, God took my brother-in-law home, and my sister got older, and she has some issues herself, and then we have this young man, and decisions have to get made. Can't live alone, so what kind of a home and what's best, and so I'm sure many people that are listening with us also are in somewhat similar situation, and maybe we all just help each other and give each other ideas of how we can continue to help each other. Now this your home, what in your own heart and your smile, what makes your home maybe a little different from other residential homes that might be around the area or the state or whatever?
And I did visit quite a few different homes.
You mentioned, huh?
Yeah. And I think what makes us different is, well, the faith base. I do believe that we need God in the center of our homes. We need Him in the center of our lives for sure. And I think it also gives us a sense of dignity as well, and a responsibility. And we understand our Christian duty to serve others, and especially the weak and those in need. And so, but it's not only that. It's not only us giving and serving them. It's also them giving to us. They give more to us than you could even imagine, in ways that professors can't tell us about, or that we can't even learn it even in our own experience. It's something that they uniquely have and give to us.
John Henry Newman, when he became a cardinal, he took a motto, cor ad cor loquitur, heart speaks to heart.
Amen.
And I think that's exactly what you're saying. They speak to us and give us joy that people don't understand.
Yeah.
Some people will not understand.
You're absolutely
And
right.
that's just a beautiful, beautiful thing and you mentioned God being part of this.
Yeah.
So important, isn't it?
And it doesn't matter what faith tradition they come from. I mean, I always tell people this. Did Mother Teresa ask people in the gutters, "Oh, are you Catholic?
No.
Oh, you're not, I'll step over you." No, you don't look at that. You
Right.
look at everyone as a child of God. Everyone has unique gifts.
Right.
And we share those gifts with one another, and we enrich each other's lives. And where one is weak, another is strong, and vice versa.
That's why we call God Abba, Father,
Yes,
Dad,
our
all His
esteemed
sons
Daddy.
and daughters.
Yep.
Let's, if it's okay with you, can we go next door to one of your other homes and maybe meet some of the
And these are
residents
live-in
and your staff?
Yeah, and they
Live-in
live here.
staff.
And that is one of our differences
What a family!
as well. Yeah,
when
what
I
a
knew
family.
you as a young kid,
I know.
I'll bet you never thought you'd have this family.
No, I didn't.
Let's
but I
go
love
next
it.
door.
You want to see your dad come with me? I'm going to take you. This is the first house here, so I'm going to take you over to actually to our third home, which is right next door here, and you'll have a chance to meet some of our participants and our residents and some of our staff.
Terrific.
Okay?
Yeah.
We'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, this is
So
Msgr. Nolan.
this is home number 3?
This is home number 3. You want to introduce yourself?
Danny. That's one of my favorite names. Yeah.
My name is Margaret, and I like it here. And my roommate is Becca. And like the beach together, and all my friends here.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
They do have lots of friends
So
here.
beautiful.
Yeah. And then
I'm Mary. I'm the house mom in the duplex.
Ah, 2 moms.
And we have lots of moms.
That's good. House moms. You know, I've never sat with 6 house moms. How did you become a house mom? Did you go to school? You just kind of show up and knock on the door and say you need a mother? Tell me about it, you know?
Well, I met Denise Reil a long time ago through the Franciscan Friars of the Renewal. And
how old were you? Little.
Yeah, I was very small.
She watched Barney with Scott.
Yeah. And then my sophomore year in high school, I came to visit, and I spent a week here at the Visitation Home. And I remember she was like, "Oh, when you graduate, you should come work for us." So it's so played out that my senior year in high school, I sent out an email and seeing if there was a position available for a house mom, and I've been here ever since. So it's been a blessing. Came right out of high school. I had the opportunity to go to school as well, and also to grow here with my VH family.
Well, that's wonderful.
I've been here the least amount of time. I moved in January from South Carolina, living with my family. And I met Denise and VH through Franciscan Friars of the Renewal as well. And I grew up in the Bronx. Yeah, I grew up in the Bronx. So it's been a beautiful experience being here these few months and living with these wonderful women and our residents.
So tell me, how about yourselves?
I'm the youngest of 4, and our mom had passed away in 1994, so our dad was getting older, and I went to college and graduated from Quincy College in 1991 and stayed in Illinois. But I was thinking maybe since I'm single and Dad's getting older and all my siblings are on the East Coast, why don't I come back? And then it was my sister-in-law who knew Denise and thought this would be a good match for me.
That's super, huh? Golly.
And I've been here for 11 years.
11 years? Yeah. We should have a party.
4 summers ago, I was working with an organization called the Center for Faith Justice, and we work with their Justice Works programs in the summer, and I was leading volunteering, and so 2 weeks I was with 5 or 6 high schoolers volunteering at the day program, and I just fell in love, and I was like, I want to come back. And so I came back initially for a year, and after the year I was like, I want to stick around for a while, so I've been here almost 3 years.
How beautiful. Irene.
I'm a volunteer. I guess it's been about 4.5 years, but I've known Denise for several years when Scotty was very little from St. Greg's. And about 4 years ago, I was working part-time, and I went into work, and I just said I called my husband, I said, do you care if I quit? And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And I said, call Denise Reil. And that's what I did, and I've been here ever since, and it's such a blessing. I love walking in those doors 3 days a week and seeing all of them. They're just
I
wonderful
say this
angels.
all the time, because when there's happiness in here, I mean, I always tell people, you can't go up to the mall and say, can I have a $10 worth of happiness? You know, that's what it is, and it's priceless. It's God. That's what's the best part of working here with this lovely saint?
My coworkers are some of my best friends. We're sisters. We joke Denise is our Jersey mom. Like, she very much is a mother figure. We can come to each other when we're having rough days, and they're always there for you, and it's a great place.
Just the exchange of love that happens. You can be having a bad day, and they'll just do something so funny and just cheer you up. And we live so much as a family. It's really beautiful.
You're a real Elizabeth. You're well named. God love you, Elizabeth.
A fond memory that I was sharing with my coworkers earlier was just a simple exchange of love that goes on amongst the residents as well as with each other. You see the love when we do something for each other. When we, like, one of our residents, Christine, sometimes she needs help getting ready for bed. And when you're amidst that, you're like, putting her slippers on, she'll stop and say, Sophia, I love you. And that just like blows me away every time. Yeah, it makes me cry almost every time. It's so beautiful because you're living your life and you're going and you're going and you're going, and they really stop you in your tracks and acknowledge what you do for them, like how much you love them, how much you care for them, and vice versa. So it's really a blessing, the exchange of love and joy that we have here at the Visitation Home.
Sounds to me you're saying like the worst day is the best day. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Really, really.
I totally relate. Like, I remember this one time, as a human, we all get tired and we have our days. So then one time I remember sitting on that table and I just put my head down for just a quick second. And then Steven, one of our residents, he comes over and he starts, like, I'm going like this, and he goes on top of me and he starts snoring. And I'm like, what are you doing, you goofball? And then he said, you okay, Ling? And then he comes and he brings me a blanket and he throws it on top of me. He's like, Blessed Mary. So like just little things, like those little details, they just bring so much joy and love to our lives.
The moments like that it like draws you out of the routine, the humdrum of everyday life. Like we're just doing and going, but they are on a different level. And like they bring you back to reality, really.
You're just doing it so easy and so well. I've always felt strongly about the fact that how God loves us all as sons and daughters, but what he taught us is that we have to love, but we have to also be loved. And those have to go together, because if they don't go together, there's something, and that's what I hear, that's what I see, that is so beautiful. Very quickly, if we can, just for a second, one person, what do you want people who watch us to know about these great saints?
That they're just like you and me. That half the time I forget that they're any different than us, And what's to say that we're not the ones that are different?
Yeah, you know what? I bet you can all echo that and all say yes to that. Huh? You know what? God love you. Thank you for having me here in your home. And listen, all of our home really belongs to what? God's home. So thank you for being part of that home. And everyone who's here, you know what? There's lots of people who have probably got tears in their eyes, but lots of love in their hearts. So we say to everybody, thank you, God love you, and let's all remember we are sons and daughters of the same God. Bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
He said I can put how you stand. Make it down.
There you go.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.